What's up, guys? Welcome, man. And I'm gonna hold tight for a moment just to wait till some of you guys come in. I know we're running a little bit late, but hey, man, life calls sometimes. You got to do what you got to do. Myself, I'm running on fumes. I'm a little tired. Turns out I got to go into the office tomorrow instead of my normal day of Monday. I'm not looking forward to that, but it is what it is. So, all right, guys, I'm just going to wait till some of you get in here. Well, actually, I do see you guys are already in, so welcome. Let me get the camera adjusted here, right? Basically, what we're going to talk about tonight, man, real quick, we definitely want to talk about the importance of the competitive player. I think this is going to build some great discussion. We'll probably stick to that point for a moment. But me and Smitty will give you our thoughts as far as what we mean in regards to that. And we've touched on this before, but I think we can go a little deeper into it tonight. We also want to talk about the Madden 18 cover athlete. I know you've seen all of the different covers that are out now. A lot of us game changers have. I say us, but mine isn't out there because guess what? I'm having a bit of trouble with Photoshop, guys. I got to be honest. I've never used it. I used to use GIMP. Just never downloaded Photoshop. No reason. I just never did. But GIMP doesn't seem to function the way I want always. You know, like little things like cutting out pictures and you're supposed to delete and it doesn't. It's just little nonsense. So I ended up downloading Photoshop and I'm learning on the fly. And that ain't working. I had to talk to Smitty earlier today. He got me along, but I still ain't got it quite right. So y'all may or may not see a cover from me, but we'll talk about that as far as what it means, who should be on it. And then in relation to that, we'll talk about whether or not the Madden Curse is real. You know, is there such thing as the Madden Curse? Do we believe in it, or is it coincidence? We want to get back to the simulation settings. What does that mean to you? We asked that question last week, but we want to go a little further with it, guys. I'm asking that question right now so y'all can think about it. Try not to think about features. Try to thinking about if someone told you right now, what is a simulation setting in Madden 17? Let's not even talk 18. What to you would be a simulation setting, slider, whatever the case, percentages or fumbles, whatever it means to you? And that's what we're going to try to talk about. And again, we're responding to Rex's question that he posed out there in the community. What would, he asked the question, what would that look like? We hear you guys always say you need this, you need that, but what does something like that look like? All right. So also, we'll talk a little bit about the NBA Finals. I was streaming the other night, and one of my guys said, "Hey, man, is it important? Are the NBA Finals important?" And playoffs. I'm sorry, important. And I think he meant because it's almost a foregone conclusion as far as who's going to be in the finals. So me and Smitty will give our thoughts on that. So that's the lineup. Also, guys, I'm going to lean heavy on you guys tonight. Smitty and I discussed that. All of these topics can go out the window. If you guys throw a topic down in the chat that you want us to cover, we will. Actually, that reminds me, I do have a guy on Twitter. Let me give him his proper recognition. His name is Nick Haley, NIQ, or at NIQ54. He says he has a topic for us tonight. He said he would like to know the sim crowd DLC. Now, if you guys may have caught me on Shop Show a week or so ago, that was one of our questions. So I would love to have that discussion here as well with Smitty. We'll go and dive into that. So that's what we got. Before we get started, Smitty, normal introductions, man. How was your week? And anything you want to discuss outside of those topics?
Well, now week was good. Definitely looking forward to the show like always. Getting it in here with everybody, seeing the dialogue already going on and popping, and appreciate all the love and the retweets and the comments and the dialogue going on around the Madden cover so far. Like Sim said, Sim working on his. It's a little bit work in progress, but he's working on his, but for everybody else, myself included, we appreciate all the likes and the retweets and the comments and everything else on those covers. So we put work in on them things, so we can put something good out there for you guys. You know what I'm saying? But I gotta. I mean, hey, I gotta give props to that Matt Stafford one. As much as I really like that Antonio Brown one I did, but that Matt Stafford with the blue and everything, that's like a whew. That icy blue.
That you showing off now.
Hey, hey, I'm proud of it. I'm proud of that joint.
Man, they were clean. I saw yours and I looked back. I was like, I might as well just take time and learn Photoshop. Bruh, a tough time, but it's all good, man.
But outside of that, though, I mean, looking forward to the show here. Nice dialogue with you guys, like always. And other than that, I mean, look, NBA playoffs is going on right now. You got the draft, and the NBA draft combine is getting underway right now. I know it's not this huge big time event like the NFL combine is, but it's underway nevertheless. And in the coming weeks, there'll be we're gonna have the draft lottery and things like that. So definitely looking forward to all that coming about. But I mean, these games are interesting, but the part that's disinteresting is just that we're pretty much waiting for Golden State and Cleveland to match up, regardless of whomever it is that comes from the East, because there's whoever it is that between the Wizards and the Celtics, they're getting beat by Cleveland more than likely. And that goes to show, and I got to agree with Skip Bayless on that point. That does show you how weak the East is. Because, and I'll say this, and then I'll throw it back to you, Sim. Jordan, because I know people are making the whole Jordan comparison and the greatness and all that. Listen, LeBron has a luxury. He's playing with two superstars, young prime superstars. Okay, not old or anything like that. Young prime superstars. Jordan never had that. Jordan actually had to play through Patrick Ewing, John Starks, Charles Smith, Charles Oakley, Mason, all them cats in New York. He had to play through Reggie Miller, the Davis brothers. Oh, if they're brothers, I'm not for certain, but he had to fight through those guys, Mark Jackson, Rick Smits, etc. He had to fight through them. He also had to deal with Sean Kemp and Gary Payton in their prime. He also had to deal with Karl Malone. He had to deal with he had to deal with Karl Malone. He had to deal with what's the name of the team? Karl Malone, John Stockton, Jeff Hornacek, Byron Russell, and them boys twice in the final.
Byron Russell, the famous push-off.
Yeah, the push-off, right. You know what I'm saying?
Man, he abused that dude. I felt bad for him, man. They ain't even call that.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And on top of that, he also had to deal with what's the name of the team? The Miami Heat back then. He had to go up against Tim Hardaway and Alonzo Mourning. These guys weren't washed up. That's the point. That's a lot more competition that I just named off right there. A lot more competition than what he's dealing with right now. Where do you see that kind of relative competition, like legitimately right now in the East? No, it's not like that.
Close.
Yeah. So that's the whole thing with LeBron. And the one last thing is I've seen here in the comments here as well. As we seen the tweet last night about, Rex, well, I didn't catch it till last night, where it was, the whole Madden 18 picture and then soon and all that. That was it was funny to me because I had people tweet me today that I ain't seen a tweet from in about 6 months. Okay, 6-7 months. They only got something to say when it's time for Madden to start promoting, when Madden getting ready to drop, and when NBA 2K ready to come out. Other than that, I don't hear anything. And then I'm talking about dudes that got something slick to say. See what I'm saying? So that's the thing that's so funny about it. They just come out the woodwork all of a sudden. I thought they delete their Twitter accounts, and all of a sudden they're back in talking. But it's just something funny, man. It's just something funny. So, but and he said, "Oh, Madden University, shout out to you." He said Jordan played with 3 Hall of Famers. Said he didn't have that. He did. Well, let me see. Jordan was drafted by the Bulls. Scottie Pippen was drafted by the Bulls. And Rodman was. I think he was a free agency pickup. So who else did he play with? That was a Hall of Famer. He was drafted. Scottie Pippen was drafted and came up under the mold of Jordan. Pippen was a good player, but that molding of Jordan, though, it's clear that it was there. So that's a whole different situation. And Jordan didn't leave. Jordan didn't leave, go to another NBA team, wait for them to re-up, and then go back. So that's the key. All right, so, but I'll throw it back to you, Sim.
Nah, man, I mean, I agree with all of that. You know, nothing out the ordinary happened for me this week other than the fact that I got to go to work tomorrow. Who wants to commute on Friday? I'm really not happy about that. But I guess, Smitty, we can kick it off right there. We can stay right with the NBA playoffs bit, and then we can run into the other stuff. And let me say this. People need to stop. Listen, it's all opinion. I get it. But you need to stop the whole, well, Jordan played with, come on. Everybody knows that the teams that Jordan played with were not put together the same way the Cavaliers was, nor the Miami Heat. So that comparison alone needs to go out the window. There's no argument there. Now, I like LeBron James. I have no problem with LeBron James, but I call things fair. Michael Jordan never searched or reached out and went to try to get. He didn't do that. So you cannot sit there and try to give but what? No, Jordan didn't do that. Like Smitty said, that team was built through the draft, pretty much. And anybody else that they acquired was more or less role players. But he never played with the likes of a Dwayne Wade and a Chris Bosh. Yeah, he had Scottie Pippen. Nobody's discounting that. But he never played with Kyrie, Love. You know, I mean, dudes who were supposed to be bona fide superstars, and he just didn't. So there's no comparison there. And like you said, man, the competition factor that he had to go through is not the same as right now. Now, again, that's not LeBron's fault. You know, I don't get on him for all of the stuff that a lot of people get on him about, you know, the resting and all that, which I wouldn't do it. But I have to understand that that's the era that he's playing in. So I kind of stopped comparing him to other people because the eras are different. You know what I mean? So you can't blame LeBron. And we're not blaming him. But you can't blame him for the lack of competition. But at the same time, we have to recognize it. Yeah, well, it ain't the same. You know, he ain't, you know, most people thinking he going right to the finals right now. But the question is, Smitty, I'll let you go first, man, because I hear my son is calling since he must be doing something. Are the NBA playoffs, you know, are they worth it? Is it important if it's a foregone conclusion that one team, well, let's just say right now, we all think the Warriors are going to go right through and we think the Cavs are going to go right through. So do you think the NBA playoffs is a waste of time, or should they just have the top teams play at the end of the year?
They're like the playoffs, the NBA playoffs, the way it is right now, it's pretty much a wash. And the thing is, excuse me. Now it's not Golden State. I can't really put blame on Golden State per se, because that team was built. You know what I mean? It's just like how San Antonio was built. These guys were built. It's just that these guys all molded and came up at the same time. See what I'm saying? Like Clay and Clay, Draymond. Because remember, Clay, Draymond, Harrison Barnes, Steph Curry, they were all draft picks. all those guys were drafted to, they were drafted very close together, and they all came up. Now, of course, the added superstar addition would be the Durant making the move, and of course the circumstances why it gets looked at funny is because, and this is the other thing too. Look at Kevin Durant. Durant is playing more in a luxurious position. Look at how much more luxurious it is of a position it is for KD to take over games. It looks very comparable to what LeBron is doing right now. See what I'm saying? It's different when you have a guy like when you're a guy like Michael Jordan and you really basically you only have one other guy to truly lean on for offense. Because let me name off some names for you here, and you guys tell me who does he have that's truly comparable? Okay, Judd Bushler, Jason Caffey, Randy Brown, Cliff Levinson. Let me see who else. Bill Cartwright, Stacey King. Let me see. John Paxson, Steve Kerr, B.J. Armstrong, Bill Wennington, Luke Longley, Bison Daly, or Brian Williams, if you want to go by that, and then Horace Grant. That's who, outside of Pippen, that's who he won with. Now, the first three rings, that's who he won with. The next three rings, yeah, you had Rodman come into the fold there for those next three, but oh yeah, that's right, Tony Kukoc. That's right, Kukoc as well. But I mean, Kukoc wasn't this killer superstar. He was a good talent, but that's the whole thing. Look at the pieces that Jordan did. That Jordan won 6 championships with. Okay? See what I'm saying? Now, I'm not saying that B.J. Armstrong sucked and all those guys sucked, but look who LeBron has on his team. Darren Williams. If Jordan had talent of this level compared to what he had, Darren Williams, you got Darren Williams. I think Tristan comes off the bench. Tristan Thompson, if I'm not mistaken, please correct me. Let me see. Who else does he have? He's got Kyle Korver, Channing Frye, Richard Jefferson. In terms of guys that at least get time off the bench. So those are guys that primarily get time off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
But when you just name those pieces alone, if Jordan had those guys, they would. Oh, I'm sorry, J.R. Smith, Iman Shumpert. Come on, under Jordan's mentality and the way he led psychologically, those guys would be playing out of their minds. They went now. I bet you, they're not going to hit every single shot, but they're not going to be playing like how they do under LeBron. I promise you that. It'd be a whole different mentality that those guys would have on that floor. They had Dennis Rodman to tame. You know what I'm saying? They was, and I mean, if those guys were able to hold them down, heck, you had Rodman admit he was like, man, Jordan and Pippen held me down better than the Pistons did, and that was his fam. You know what I mean? So it's like that says a lot in terms of the mentality that Jordan had. Jordan, like, we gonna control this. We gonna run this. Keep your head in the game. We got this. That's the kind of mindset that he had, man. And it's a whole. It's not even on the same level. And you're talking about LeBron with 2 superstars in their prime, not past their prime, in their early to clear prime state. Yeah, okay. Let Jordan have that. In this NBA climate, man, please. Jordan would be averaging 45 a game. You talking about LeBron averaging 35, Jordan would be averaging 45. It'd be such a luxury for him to be able to score. It'd be too easy. It'd be way too easy for him to score. Oh yeah, you know what? Like, let's just think about it. Let's say if he has somebody in his early prime. Let's say he had early prime. He got Shaq and he got Grant Hill. Grant Hill, the way he was busting every single person in the league with that crossover. Stop it. Okay? Or you can put Stephon Marbury or Allen Iverson or Kevin Garnett. Come on, let's not do this. If you do that, that's just going to stretch the floor. And Jordan, you can't account for him and then these two other killers. You're not gonna be able to do that.
Right.
That's what's going on. That's why it cracks me up when I see these television shows and see people comment and they're all talking about, oh, LeBron's on a tear. LeBron's doing this and LeBron's doing. I'm like, so we're gonna act like Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love don't have anything to do with this equation. Those dudes play such a huge part in LeBron having these averages. It's not even funny. Take those players away and let LeBron only have Kyrie. Let's say he only went back to Cleveland and only had Kyrie and Tristan. Okay? Guess what? They're not the same team now. It's going to be a lot harder for him to get to the finals. Potentially. Not saying it would be for sure, because if that's the other thing too. They still would have had Andrew Wiggins over there. Now, how Andrew Wiggins would have panned out considering Kyrie's getting the ball, Tristan's getting the ball, LeBron's getting the ball, he may not have panned out as fast, but I still believe he would have been capable of giving you 20 a night, but I don't think he would have averaged 20 like what he's doing in Minnesota.
Right. See
what I'm saying? So this is why I'm saying that, hey, is Philly Chew going to get on?
I'm waiting. I didn't see the email address. You can shoot it to me. Let me check Twitter real quick.
Yeah.
I'm happy to bring you on.
Send the email address of Philly Chew. He's saying he's trying to get on. He wanted to get on.
Yeah, shoot the email to me on Twitter, man, and we'll send you the invite.
Yeah. But I'll just say that, if LeBron had Wiggins and that with that team, could he still have had his own big three, so to speak? Yes, very much so. And could that team still have made it to the finals at some point? Yes. So he still could have done it. But what I'm saying is that it's as if he had to have the super team in order to be able to put himself in position to get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got to have a super team or else. I just can't. Like he just can't do it. And that's my whole thing about it. LeBron doesn't have that help. He's not winning series. Other teams got a better chance of potentially beating them. You see what I'm saying? So that's my whole point when I'm talking about LeBron and the greatness aspect. And that's from a video I did a long time ago, back in 2009 when LeBron first made that announcement. I said that I was saying that in regards to his greatness, that he'll still be a great player, but his greatness would have an asterisk next to it because of how he went about it. And it's because of these super team things that he's doing now. It's like, yeah, get the championships, but it's how he's going about it. See what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that's the whole thing. That's the part that I'm getting at, is that right there. So, but I'll throw it back to you, Sim.
Yeah, man, I don't even jump into the whole LeBron versus Jordan because everybody is going to have their own. It's like we've been saying it, man. I mean, they played in different eras. You can't – we just acknowledge what we saw. And I definitely feel like even if you don't believe, look at what the actual – saying. Everyone is acknowledging the East is not the same as it used to be once before. It's not the same level of competition. Does that diminish what LeBron does? No. He still got to go out there and average what he averages. But come on, let's not act like that there's a lot of people impeding his progress. Here they go, either Golden State or the Cavs winning 16 straight games. That's just crazy. That's just crazy. Now, as far as does the playoff matter, I still, even with all that said, man, I still think you got to have a playoff. because I'm not just going to sit here and act like that's just automatically going to happen. You never know. You never know. The Cavs could be one of them teams that mess around and get caught sleeping. Remember I said that before. I don't know. I really don't know right now, though, to be honest, if Boston could beat them. I don't think can beat them. I don't know what's going on with the Wizards, to be honest. But that's why the NBA playoffs is still important to me. You get to see exactly what teams are all about. You get to see what they're all about. You know what I mean? See if they are real or not. And the Washington Wizards, in my opinion, should be ashamed of themselves. Like, what are they doing? It just looks bad. There's no way that the Celtics is that much better than them. I ain't trying to hear that. Yeah, man, I think you still got to have a playoffs to some degree. You know, you can't just – because, like, you know, what I proposed in the stream when the guy asked me that question, I said, well, if we're going to do that, then what needs to happen is whoever has the best record on both sides play each other for the finals. And who would want that? You see what I mean? So, yeah, you know, I won't say it's useless. I mean, this is only going to be like this for a little while. It's not going to be the Warriors and the Cavs forever. Right. And we'll see. We'll see what happens, man. But that's kind of how I feel on that. Let me see if we got Philly Chew. So let me go ahead and shoot it to him, man, on doing this conversation before we move on. So for you guys who just came in a little bit later, man, you know, this is a show that we talk about multiple topics. You know, we're hitting up the NBA playoffs right now, but we're going to dive into the Madden stuff in just a minute. But yeah, Smitty, I just feel like, man, the whole Jordan LeBron thing improved. You know, I hate to sound like the party pooper, but it's like I just don't have time to argue, or we have discussions. But I watch other people, they really be like gung-ho for one side or the other. And I'm like, how could you say that? How could you clearly say LeBron better than Jordan, which to me is crazy? And how could you just really say Jordan is better than LeBron? We could say it, but then you still got to be like, well, in what regard? Then once you explain it, yeah, he's better. Yep. But like LeBron ain't nice. I mean, I hear people literally telling me, man, that dude wouldn't be nothing. Again, I know 205 said this. Listen, man, just looking at his measurables, what we see him do, I think he could have played back in the day. I don't know how successful he would have been. Who were about his size or probably smaller on the same body type. Growing up in that era, because some people can say he ain't tough enough, but if he grew up then, he would have been tough. So I really think he could have been successful, you know, back then. But
he would have got whooped up a little bit. He would have got whooped up a little bit. He would have got touched, but with him getting touched, he still will hurt you. Look what Jordan did. Jordan learned, and he picked his spots with going to the rack after he learned that jumper. LeBron would do the same thing. And that's the thing. Yeah, LeBron had the versatility to do just that. Absolutely. Can't front on that.
All right, guys. Well, we do have Philly Chew on the line. Let's see, he's definitely busy right now, so we may have to bear with him for a moment. What we got you, man, is whenever you're ready to chime in, feel free. We know how it is with kids, so I mean.
Sorry, my daughter is going a little crazy right now. Hold on one second.
Oh, you good, man? You good?
Yeah, we'll just mute you for a second, and then when you're ready, just come on back in. Just unmute it, because for whatever reason it doesn't allow me. Again, YouTube, Google Hangouts, running the Hangout more control. Why can't I unmute people? I can mute them, but I can't unmute them. That's kind of silly to me. I'm sure you can still hear us. When you're able to come back in, just unmute. Bear with us for a moment, guys. We don't want to jump into another topic when we know exactly, you know, what Philly Chew probably wants to comment on. So let's just give us a moment. See what you guys are talking about in the comments down there. See if we can comment on some of those things. What y'all talking about, man? Oh, real quick. My man GSP wanted me to give my thoughts before the show is over on Canelo versus Triple G. So I'll do that real quick. Here's what I think. I'm gonna go out on the limb, man. I think Canelo might beat Triple G. And let me explain why. It's similar to the reason why I thought the Chavez fight would have been better. Boy, were we wrong. Heyday? Don't know what that was. But the reason why I think that Canelo has a shot, if you watch boxing, man, extensively, like I do, I don't know how many other people are really into it like that. Canelo has come a long way. He's not the guy. Oh, you're here? Yeah. All right, go ahead, man. I'll come back to that. Definitely while you got time. Go ahead, man. What you got for us?
So I just wanted to respond real quick to what Smitty was saying. And I'm not, here you go. So I watched all the Jordan. I'm old enough to have seen all the championships, not just, you know what I mean? Like, so since 91, I watched the first one was in 91, watched, you know, like all 6 championships. And I just think it's not to the point where we can't compare anybody to Jordan, man. Like, everybody acts like the NBA was a lot more physical back then, but it's way more talented now. Like, some of those guys you were naming are not superstars. They were just regular role players. Byron Russell, not a superstar. Sean Kemp is a great highlight film. His career, like, Sean Kemp is not, you look at the stats, nobody's going to be wild by those stats over the years. Charles Oakley, all those players, those it was a more physical NBA. But the teams Jordan faced in the chip as well, and like I think Jordan is the greatest player ever. Accolades, everything he did for the league, don't get me wrong. But if somebody said line up the 10 best players in the NBA and you get to pick number 1, I don't know if I'm picking Mike number 1. And that's not taken away from his greatness. That's not taken away from his greatness. LeBron is a more talented player. Now, you could argue whatever that means. You could say his mentality. You could say all those things. He's a more talented player. He does play in a softer NBA. I agree with you 100%. Can't argue that at all. The teams Jordan faced in the finals, none of those teams was world beaters except for that first Lakers team. That's the only team, like, I mean, come on, man. Those Portland Trailblazers teams, The Jazz team, Karl Malone, John Stockton, You know, those teams aren't the caliber of those teams that LeBron was facing. That's all I wanted to say. I'm sorry. I'm rating now.
Who would you take, real quick, before you go, who would you take before LeBron? Just curious.
If I had to, if I'm picking like non-centers?
I mean, I guess I would say out of the big names that we all know, you know, like the Jordans and all that, who would you take over Jordan, like as far as the big dogs? Like, who would you say?
Honestly, so here you go. I think that Michael Jordan was an incredibly talented player, but I think that he was before his time, right? Like, so I think if you look at a lot of players athletically and what they bring to the game today, it is very much on par for what Mike did back then. And that's the only point that I'm making. I'm not saying that these guys are better than Mike. I'm not arguing that LeBron is better than Mike. Like I said, I'm 38 because I think Mike is the best player ever. 6 rings, championships, blah, 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 run down the list of accolades. I agree. I definitely think that LeBron being 6'9", freight train gives people problems, right? I definitely think Kobe athletically is probably on par with Mike. You know what I mean? Like on par with Mike. And in that era could have done a lot of the same things. I think Mike could do a lot of those same things in this era. That's my only argument, is that like people act like you can't make the comparison. That's what sports are, that we make the comparison. My pop, you know what I mean, being the greatest player is a lot about the era you grow up in. You know what I mean? My pop doesn't think Jordan's the best ever. You know what I mean? He thinks Dr. J, Wilt Chamberlain, some people of that, Oscar Robertson. You know what I mean? So a lot of that is the era you grow up in.
Yeah, man, I definitely agree with that. And to be honest with you, the reason why I asked that question, I just wanted to see, you know, your point of view. I definitely can agree with the fact that you have to look at the measurables of people. Like, why can't you? Right, in a way, you can't just blindly say, "Oh, we can't compare them." I come from, as I always said, that I can't compare their errors because we know things were different. It's almost like in football, you know, when Jack Tatum and them counted cats played defense. I mean, Lord have mercy. You can't do that now. You see what I mean? So it's like in Ronnie Lott and them, you know, you can't compare the errors. But the key thing you said was when you look at LeBron's size, same reason why I think he could have played then. Same type of player that LeBron is and Kobe, I believe they both could have played in the 90s. I believe they could have. So that's a great point. And listen, folks, even though I disagreed as far as saying that I would take somebody over Mike, I understand where he's coming from. And it's all preference. Like he said, you know, his pop said Dr. J was the man. So how would his dad think he's not? That's what he saw. Just like my pops. My pops say Jim Brown was best running back ever. You know what I'm saying? So it's error, you know.
One thing I'll say is this. He didn't play against a ton of superstars per se, like the point he was making. But at the same time, Jordan played against a lot more complete teams than what LeBron is playing against. LeBron is not playing against, and what I mean by complete teams is that you have reliable guys. So you said Sean Kemp didn't average all that with points. Yeah, Kemp averaged like 16, 17 points per game. He wasn't averaging close to 30, but at the same time, he had, what was it? He had Hershey Hawkins. He had Detlef Schrempf. He had, you see what I'm saying? Like, he had pieces that were able to legitimately contribute to the whole consistently. The New York Knicks, you said, yeah, Charles Oakley. Oakley was an enforcer with a nice elbow jump shot as well. So, I mean, the thing is that, yeah, he didn't play against, like, the guys I named. I wasn't naming just superstar talents and that's it. But these were all marquee guys that mattered. That's just like when the Pistons won back in 2004. That's why they resemble the Bad Boys team, because not everybody on that team was not a superstar, but their value was extremely high to the whole. John Starks, Charles Smith, Anthony Mason, Xavier McDaniel, those dudes were all highly valuable to the New York Knicks, to that squad in terms of their role. So they were very valuable, just like the Davis brothers on the Pacers then. Very valuable. Rick Smits, Mark Jackson, along with Reggie Miller, Haywood Workman. You know what I mean? These guys were all valuable parts, very valuable. So when I look at that 2004 Pistons team, Ben Wallace, you look at Tay, you look at Rip, Sheed, Mike James, Mehmet. You see what I'm saying? Not everybody was just these great pieces, and there were this world-beating squad. Like, oh, well, who's Corliss Williamson? He's an average player. Yeah, he was an average player. He was definitely an average player, but he was good for what his role was on the Pistons, for what we needed him for. And see, that's the thing. You had a lot more of that going on in Jordan's time frame versus what you got going on with LeBron right now. You think JaVale McGee holds so much value in Golden State right now that they can't win without him? And I'm not saying that. I ain't saying that, you know, I ain't saying all that Shaq clowning stuff. I mean, legitimately, I'm saying straight up balling. Yeah. He's a 7-footer. Now, his value is not as high as we were to say, like that's like when we had Buddha, okay, you know, on the Pistons with James Edwards, for those that may not know. When we had James Edwards on our squad, yeah, he did some work, but he wasn't as valuable as Spider Sally. He wasn't as valuable as Dennis Rodman was. See what I'm saying? And you could take Dennis Rodman right now, put him on that team, put him in there against Golden State, and put him on McGee. He'll give him fits. Put him on Draymond Green. He's giving that brother fits. See what I'm saying? This is the dude that held Shaq to 2 points. He was like, I want you to lock him up. All right, that's my assignment. I got you. This dude will come straight off party and come in that game night and hold it down. See what I'm saying? this is what I'm saying. You had complete teams with players, even though they were role players, their roles had much more value than what you got going on right now in the current NBA. Like, if Isaiah Thomas doesn't have a great game, who outside of Avery Bradley is going to hold it down? What about Amir Johnson? What about Al Horford? What about, you see what I'm saying? Like, who else is really going to hold it down, or at least help to do that? Because you got serviceable guys that could step up. You don't have that in this, in this current NBA, because it's so reliant upon the superstar. Those role players don't have prominence like that now. That's the difference between now and then, and that's why Jordan had it tougher than LeBron did. I'm not saying that LeBron wouldn't be able to thrive, because I mean, off of physical prowess, he'd be able to thrive, I believe.
Right.
But I just think that like from what LeBron is dealing with versus what's going on right now, it's not the same kind of league. So, but I'll throw it back to you, Sim, man.
Nah, man. I think we've hit that. We beat that dead horse pretty good, man. So
yeah.
We could definitely move on to the next, man. So, all right, guys, let's talk about. Let's hit the big one first. The importance of the competitive player. Now, I know you guys are saying, look, how could the competitive guy be important? We are a sim crowd. These guys cheese over and over and over. Some of them, well, I guess I will say all of them at times, because they have to. It's the game that allows them to do it. It is what it is. Like when we had Madden Universe on, coming from. I mean, the game allows you to do it. That's how it's played in competitive play. Why wouldn't you do it if you're competing? Get all that. But the point I wanted to address, I thought it was very hilarious to me that, I don't know if y'all caught this. Now, watching the recent Madden tournament, you got Boterex has got a final spot here. And, he was doing his swerve catch thing. And, people had stuff to say about it in the chat and this and that. Even the commentators mentioned it. But what I thought was hilarious was when Drea interviewed his grandfather. And he was saying how close a family they are. So I'm not talking about that, because some people was clowning the man for getting choked up. Come on, that's somebody's grandfather. He's proud of his grandson, regardless of what he's doing. That disturbed me a little bit when people was making fun of this older man. So I'm not talking about that. But Drea said, so what do you think about the swerve? She asked that to the grandfather. And the grandfather was like, well, he's going to ride it all the way to the top. Now, it made me think, I've got to be pretty upset about that. There's no way you want your game to be recognized on the biggest stage having this glaring flaw. And here's a guy who has the potential to win it all using this glitch. I don't think that's the type of recognition you want. And let me take time out to thank the two people who did dislike the video. I always like to thank you guys for sharing your real thoughts. It's funny how the show ain't even over yet. They already dislike it. But like I said, I like to thank you guys who do that. Now, one thing. I really feel like because the game is on a bigger stage now, it is going to force the game to get better. We've said that 1,000 times. 205 has said that in the past before it even hit esports. That's how we all felt. But I really think that this is going to help the game get to better heights. Talk about FIFA and how well that game shows. I mean, it's amazing how good that game looks in competitive play. And I have no idea what's going on. I'm just watching it because I could see the strategy and all of that playing out. It looks good. It moves well. I don't see anybody using any crazy tactics. They could be, because I don't know, but it doesn't seem that way. With Madden, it's clear to see it. You can clearly see what's not football-like. And if it's to the point now where, before commentators, they didn't even reference it. Now they're referencing it as well as the interviewer is saying, so what do you think about that swerve move? That's just crazy to me. But I really feel like the bad is going to help get the good. Because like I said, man, who wants their product to be on that stage like that, being shown on the NFL network? Not going to want that. And I'm not talking about the developers. Y'all always know when Smitty and I speak, and in Azure, most of the time we're going past the devs because we already know where the devs at. We know what they want to do. If it's up to them, and I don't want to say this like they don't have control, because y'all misconstrue things all the time. But they have bosses. They have to abide by the bosses. They have to do what they're able to do, what they're allowed to do as far as time, money, et cetera, et cetera. This will make those higher ups, the executives and the guys that do the investor call and those type of guys, when they start seeing that performance, I think that's going to change some things. It's going to have to. It can't afford to continue having these tournaments, and at least the last tournaments that we've all watched. Think about it. I don't know about them all, but I can confidently say in the last 4 or 5 tournaments I've watched, there's been something that shouldn't necessarily happen. And I'm not disrespecting by saying this at all, because this is my guy. And he knows this. Problem, shout outs to him. That's my guy. But everybody went crazy last year when he was running the fullback dive. And like I said, a lot of these guys are doing it out of circumstance because of the game allows them to do it. They're playing for money. It is what it is. I ain't going to judge on that. But everybody knows that you shouldn't be able to run the fullback dive that effectively, or whoever you got. You shouldn't always be able to cover the run well out of dime. I mean, come on, man. You got 3 down linemen. And come on, man. It shouldn't happen consistently. You shouldn't be able to roll out super far and still be able to complete what they call dots down the field. That shouldn't happen. Not regularly. Quarterback should be able to do it because there's not enough penalty there for me, Smitty. Like, I'm not saying that it can't happen, but it's not enough penalty there. We saw Aaron Rodgers throw a super dot against the Cowboys, right? Rolling out to his left. But okay, if he can do it, it can't be every quarterback able to do that. And that's the thing the game doesn't really represent yet. So stuff like that, or the swerve catch. Do that with effectiveness, even though, and I know my man Madden Universe is in here, so he's probably saying this to himself. There's ways that some people have figured out how to combat it, but it shouldn't take that much. Doing that shouldn't affect the defensive reaction time. That's a game problem. See what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I know Rex and them hate that. I'm pretty sure we probably not gonna see that going forward. That's what my hope would be. And because if I know Rex the way I know Rex, he can't stand the fact that that's in the game. And I could almost guarantee that we ain't going to be seeing that going forward, just knowing the way I think I know he's going to approach that. But all in all, man, I think the competitive player, and I'm not talking about all of those guys, because some of those guys, man, like I said, if they were playing SimBall, they would bust you up the same way. Trust me, I've seen it in person. But I just feel like the guys who, and I hate to pick on them because I don't know him, but guys like Voltarex that's doing that kind of nonsense, or the dudes that all they do is check out the new blitz and they install that. They don't really know how to play, but they're successful. We need those competitive tourney guys like that to get the nonsense out of the game. I think it's going to help. What you think, Smitty?
Well, the thing is, I feel that the more guys we have that are like Voltarex, the better. Because essentially that's going to help us get the game that we want. And that's going to make this scene turn into FIFA, which needs to happen in the worst possible way. Because looking at FIFA and how that game plays out, that's soccer. Sorry. That's soccer I'm watching. Like, that's, Even if I'm not like Sim and I talk about it offline. We're not these big time soccer heads like that, but maybe we need to dip our hat into that FIFA pool and really,
Maybe.
you know what I'm saying, get into soccer a bit more, because the thing is, like, it's being replicated just like how I see it when I play the game offline. And dudes, I mean, if you guys seen any of the tournament play as of recently, dudes lost players due to penalty. I've seen it where they've had penalty kicks. Guys will go down due to injury, things like that. They take a hard foul or something like that and get hurt, and they're out for the game. Like, the depth of your team matters. Energy management, strategy in terms of how you attack, how you defend, all that stuff matters there. Madden, these dudes, like, you seen guys complaining about fatigue. Like, are you serious? Who in football doesn't get tired? Like, you know what I'm saying? These guys just don't have they don't have Duracell batteries that just run on forever. These dudes get tired. But the problem is that you don't have that effect going on where it's like, you need to have the penalties. You need to have stamina make an impact. You need player ability, like not just ability, but their positioning and things like that to take fully, more into account in terms of how it impacts performance. Your defensive scheme that you run, pass placement, things like that. Like Sim said, not everybody should be able to do everything, and that's right. Some people, see, this is where having weapons and stuff like pocket presence. Okay, your QB, and this is pulling from APF, he's accurate when he's in the pocket versus a scrambling quarterback where he's a guy that can scramble outside of the pocket and make throws on the run and still maintain accuracy. See, you had that differential in APF. If I took John Elway and I tried to make throws on the run with him on a regular basis, he's not going to have nearly as much success as a Randall Cunningham would.
Right.
See what I'm saying? And that's the way the game's built. It's built to fully replicate that. So you don't necessarily have that effect going on right now in the game. So you know what I'm saying? To have a non-random penalty system. See, that's what I'm saying. Like Madden Universe is saying, if he wants to get in, it would be great to have him on the board here, and you can give some points here in regards to this, because I know this is something he interacts with. But back to the point though about Volterax and those guys. The reason why I like, and this is a point that Sim, myself, Azura, we've all made this offline on this platform as well here multiple times. The main reason why we like it, when we see these guys do all the cheese and all the exploit and all that stuff, is because the more and more they do all of that, that screams that we need to get the game that we want. Which is, you're talking about player movement. Like we've talked about that many times. Player movement, respective positioning, organic physicality, or organic ball physics and things like that. Having the penalties in there, and I understand because the game has been about structured animation sequences and stuff like that going on. I can understand why the penalty aspect would be it would be randomized in terms of when it would happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, that would be something where the game would need to be more like a FIFA in order for that to really come to pass. I get that now, I respect that. But on the flip side though, you need to have you need to have fatigue, and you need to have some of those rules in there, because some of those rules can apply. Jumping off sides, things like that, or what have you, that kind of stuff, which that is a part of the game, but you need to have all of them at some point. So it's like, I know they're building it, and I know it's more of an in progress because the game isn't all the way there as of yet, but there needs to be a way to put penalties into the game, like how you had on Madden Gen 2, okay? you would get called for pass interference. Like, let's say if you took control of that defensive back and you bump the receiver while they're on the route and you throw the ball in that direction and he can't get to it, they call pass interference. That's addressing that right there. So, see, that's what I'm saying. You got dudes that want to swerve. Let's say dude try to do swerve catch or something like that, you know, something silly or whatever. And you end up pushing off the defender, and then you go ahead and you go for the catch. Well, because you bumped him off and then you went for that catch, boom, offensive pass interference. It doesn't have to necessarily be tied together to a sequence in order for the penalty to happen. That's my whole point. Because people are going to mess around and get a bit too overexerting. You know, they're going to overexert on the controls, and then they're going to mess up. So that's why I'm saying it can still be applied to the game in more of a principled fashion, but still introduce us to it. Introduce it, and then build upon it and make it more authentic in terms of how you see it visually, like how we see in FIFA and PES. And, you know, in terms of that. But the key thing is when you see these tournament players do play the way they play, that play style helps us get the game to that point, because now Rex can go to the table and he can bang on, you know, he could bang harder on the table and say, look how the game's looking. Look at what these people are saying on Twitch. And I can understand why these guys be on those Twitch streams so hard, because those comments are archived and they could go back to it and he could pull it up in a board meeting and be like, look what these guys are saying. Look what they're saying about the game here when you see that stuff happen. That's why I said this is the kind of stuff that needs to happen. Then he's got something that we could really stand behind and help push. So that's why I love seeing it. I don't like looking at it all, you know, on my own, but, you know, of course, it's an eyesore to look at, but it's a necessary evil to get us to the good game that we truly want. So. But I'll throw it back to you, Sim.
Yeah, man, it goes back to the discussion we had, you know, a little while ago. You got to bridge the gap at some point. You know, whether people in their respective communities want to like each other or not, I really could care less about that. When I talk about bridging the gap, I'm just talking about even from the development standpoint, the marketing standpoint. You know, what's the guy named Marku? Whoever's in charge of that stuff, the game has to be developed from the same perspective. You have to develop it from a football standpoint. And then I'm cool with having different play styles, different settings, because listen, it's just like Universe said, a random penalty and 50,000 on the line. No, I ain't with that either if I'm playing for that. Now, if it's something that's user generated, absolutely. You know, if you clearly run into my guy and try to impede him, pass interference, defensive holding, whatever the case may be, you know, I'm cool with that. But like or even develop the game to, and I know we're talking in the future now, but develop the game to where you have things in the game that illustrate real penalties. You know, you have an undisciplined lineman, which that is one of the traits, right? And now you can physically see that he's holding. I actually had a animation, man. I might end up posting it. Very good hold animation, but it would be so much better if they could get a fistful of jersey and make me believe it. But even with stuff like that, you know, what if you have enough animations to where the triggers in the game are not just dice roll, which we understand you have to have a dice roll to some degree, but what if it was based on matchup? You know, what if your offensive lineman, that's an undisciplined guy, not that good, is going up against an elite Von Miller or whoever it might be? That, I mean, just his block shed and finesse move, all of that is off the charts. What if a game gets to a point where you see more penalties when he's facing that guy? I would be cool with that, because then the element there is that if I'm playing in a tournament, I know I can't just be overlooking my offensive lineman, because now we're talking about gameplay. Because most of you guys here, especially Kia and Madden Universe, would know that dudes be running with bronze linemen and they holding it down. See? So it's like it's give and take. And is exactly my point. The game has to be made to accommodate football first. Period. Whether you are a competitive, arcade, or sim guy, it has to respect football. Then if when tournaments happen, you want to cut off penalties or whatever because you don't feel like it gives everybody a legitimate shot because the game is not quite there yet, okay. And I just would have to understand that if I'm going to play in the tournament, there's really not going to be any penalties. Now, fatigue should be there. Fatigue absolutely should be a part of it, mainly because these tournaments are played on modes that are centered around building your roster. They ain't playing with regular teams. They're playing with teams that they have acquired through MUT and or draft champions where you're trying to choose how you want to build your squad. Or MUT salary cap. Either way, the principle behind these modes are building a team. So why not make things that is important to the team be a factor in the tournament? Now, me personally, I don't know if fatigue is cut all the way off. It doesn't seem like it plays out the way it should. So, I mean, you guys can correct me on that. But it's got to matter, man. You know, like some of you guys that watch my CFM stuff, I put my fatigue on 70 just because I want to have to force myself to build a roster. Even my defense gets tired. Like, you know, I love it. It's fun to me. The boys getting gassed after being on the field for like 13 plays. And it's pass. Even my DB is getting tired. Maybe that ain't fun to everybody, but I do feel like, and they have all of that stuff, Madden has to get to that level. Because let's remember what Rex has stated and others. They want Madden NFL football to represent the equivalent, or at least the counterpart to the real NFL, even on the big stage. So you have to build the game up to where these things are a part of the tournament. Like I said, I'm cool with having different rules, whatever that might mean for tourney play. But come on, man. You gotta make it tougher on these competitors, man. At least make guys get tired. You know what I'm saying? Or some type of risk of, you know, holding or something because this guy is not he's not the best matchup for the opposing edge rusher. You know, come on, man. You got to have stuff like that, man. It's just my honest opinion, but, you know, just one man's opinion. But moving on, guys, you know, continuing with the Madden talk, let's talk about this cover. Now, what I really want to talk about in terms of the cover is this is kind of merging the two topics because there's really not much to say about the cover because we don't know who's going to be on it yet. So I kind of wanted to discuss quickly, Smitty, man, you know, who we think should be on the cover, but then also in conjunction with that, for real. I mean, is it a real thing? Is it a fluke? Is it a coincidence? Is it just in people's head that we think, you know, maybe guys get injured every year, but when they get injured, when it's a Madden cover year, we're believing it's the cover that did it? So what do you think about that, man? If it was up to you, you know, who would be on the Madden cover and why? And then also, you know, what do you think about the curse?
Well, as far as the whole curse aspect side of things is concerned, I mean, you know, excuse me, it's whatever to me in that regard. I don't really think about that part of it too much. Like, you know, play like this guy had a downfall because he was on the cover of Madden. That means that his game is just about to go down into the toilet now because of that. Like that to me doesn't make any sense to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like Vince Young was on the cover. Oh man, look what happened to him. You know, all these guys would get on the cover. Oh man, like I'm not really buying into the whole curse thing and all that stuff like that. It doesn't really mean much to me at all. Like I was saying, like I don't have a ton of stuff to really say on it. But I mean, I know some people read into it, just like what people were saying earlier, like they taking shots at Detroit and everything because of it. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, who cares? If he makes the cover, awesome. If he doesn't make the cover, well, then he just don't make the cover. You know what I mean? But then they're like, oh, I don't want my player to make the cover because I don't want to fall off. Like, you got, and shout out to my dude. VF, you my dude, man. You know what I'm saying? And other people as well that support Atlanta. What a nan player, you know what I'm saying? Wasn't a single soul from Atlanta on that cover. And look what happened in the Super Bowl. And that now I bet you if a player was on Madden that year, oh, that was the Madden cover curse. They got cursed, that's why they lost. Like, no. It was a bonehead decision that was made, and that's why them boys lost. They just needed to kick a field goal and they would have been straight. So no, and that's my whole point right there. I can't buy that. I can't buy the logic that is you know, you get on the Madden cover, all of a sudden your game is going into the toilet. Like, going somewhere with that. Ain't buying any of that. So that's why I'm like, it just depends upon what's going on with your team, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? Like, look. There are too many players in the NFL every single year that get hurt. The Detroit Lions, for example, my Lions, I'm saying, hey, Matt Stafford should make the cover. You know how many, over the years, how many key players have went down due to injury? Nobody on the cover. You know what I'm saying? No one's on the cover.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So, and we've had a decent number of Lions make the cover. Like, we've had Barry on the cover, what, twice, I think? No, 3 times. And then we had Calvin on the cover. So it's like we've had multiple Lions on the cover, but the thing is it doesn't matter, dude. Ain't nobody's career all of a sudden about to fall off because they get onto a Madden cover. Scratch all that, man. Ain't hearing any of that. I ain't worried about that. But no, as far as who I think would be on the cover, I know a lot of people are saying Zeke is going to make it because of what was put out before or whatever, but oh, man. I know if we were to go off of popularity, it would be more of a I would say like either Antonio Brown would make it, or maybe defense. And I wouldn't necessarily say, I would say either Pat Pete or even Josh, my man, Norman, make the cover. So those are really my picks there, outside of Stafford, of course. I mean, it'd be cool to have my hometown guy get it, but somebody else gets it, I probably prefer those guys, especially since my man came out of I think he was out of either Central or Western Michigan, Antonio. So he make it, you know what I'm saying? That's a Michigan product in that essence. So hey, I'll definitely take it. But no, that's all I got on that, Sim.
No, man, I don't want it more than that. I'm scared, man. I don't. Man, I don't know if I believe it either, man. I think it's coincidence. I really do believe that, because, I mean, listen, it's okay to be superstitious. Sometimes things do come true, but because somebody who beat the curse, wasn't it Sherman or somebody like that? Somebody didn't get hurt, or was it Calvin? It was somebody like that recently that I remember we was like, oh, nothing really happened to them.
Sherman.
Was it Sherman? It might have been Sherman.
Sherman didn't get it. Also, what's his name? Calvin, he said a single season receiving record, like in terms of receiving yards. Even though he had an injury, he did have an injury, but he still, dude, the guy's Calvin was the primary threat on our team. Yeah, he got banged up by default. So that was a given. Like, okay.
Right.
So, but yeah, so it's like, it's not always guaranteed demise. Oh yeah, Odell Beckham. Somebody else has said it. Odell Beckham.
Oh yeah, okay.
One. So
Yeah, man. So yeah, I think it's just a funny myth that us consumers follow, and when it happens, we be like, oh, see, on that cover. But I absolutely don't believe that it has anything to do with anything. In terms of who I would like to see on the cover, I don't know, man. I'll take it in a different direction. It's just me with my wacky ideas. So we all know what's been announced about Madden 18 as far as, what the investors stated that. And like I said, Smitty and I got to be very careful what we say and what we, because I don't know what I can and can't say. So I don't say the words. I just refer back to what was said on the call. We all know what was said on the call, right? And we all would assume that would be the future of EA Sports in general and EA gaming and engines, et cetera, et cetera. So to me, I would put, if this is going to be the Madden that's debuting, I would, maybe try to promote future. Who better than to put on the cover? I'll do a dual cover, like when my man Troy and Larry Fitzgerald was on it. I thought that was pretty neat. I would say go ahead and put Zeke and Dak on there because they clearly represent the future of the Dallas Cowboys. Clearly, they balled out, came up short. Hey, it is what it is. They came up short in the playoffs, but that's a new era. There's no more Tony Romo. There should absolutely be no more quarterback controversy. Outside of Zeke being a little freaky, pulling the girl's shirt down, not no real issues with him or Dak. So doesn't seem like you got to worry about any of that. It's a new era. Like young and there's a lot of young guys last year as far as rookies, but I don't think anybody was more successful than them two. Well, there were some guys, but those two together definitely represent the future in so many ways. We're gonna see these dudes, I assume, for a long time. They possibly can have the Cowboys in contention in their division for a long time, et cetera, et cetera. And with that correlating with Madden, this being a new era, future projection for Madden, I'll do something like that. And I know I'm thinking totally out the box, Smitty, but I don't really care about the Madden cover, to tell you the truth. I don't care who's on there. Yeah, I really don't. The only time I pay attention to who's on the cover is when they announce it. All the other times, who cares? They can put me on it. I don't care. Who cares? Who cares? I'm playing the game. I could care less who's on the cover. I'm not into the art and all that like that. But yeah, if I had a choice, I would do something like that. And that brings up another thing. The reason why I said that, guys, is because I feel like it would be better. And I see my camera keep shaking. My table is doing some craziness. Sorry about that, guys. I keep doing this every now and then. But I feel like that the cover should start being more relative to what the game is. And I know a lot of times we have speculated that at no 5 when it was about the defense. You put Ray on there. It made sense. I like to see them get more back into that. And I think they kind of went with that too with Odell. But to be more tailored to that and always about that. Personally, I didn't really know where the Grunk situation came from last year. He ball, he's always Grunk, but in relationship to Madden and what Madden 17 was, see how that tied in. So I would always like the cover to be emblematic to what the theme of it is. Because, again, the Odell thing was perfect. The dude comes off of making this wonderful catch, and then they're advertising deviant wideout interactions, air supremacy, and all. It had everybody kind of like, oh, I can't wait. You see the trailer, everybody was a little hyped, like, oh, okay. They had this whole dramatic sizzle with him catching it, even though it got critiqued to no, it got critiqued to no end, that trailer. But still, I would love for the theme to have, of the cover to have something to do with what's coming. Give a little teaser. That's how I would do it. And that's why I say, if everything is going the way Andrew Wilson said, that's the future. That's the next wave for Madden. Because how many people keep saying, man, they need to scrap what they're doing and use something different. So that would represent the future. And why do I keep getting their names wrong? I want to call him Deke and Zach. Dak and Zeke represent the future. So that would be a kind of cool little metaphor, so to speak, I guess. But who cares? Just like Smitty said, I said a whole lot of nothing there. I really don't care who's on the cover. It makes no difference to me. But moving on, what else we got here, man? Let's get back to the simulation settings, Smitty, and I'll let you kick that off, man, because I think we both feel like some of us was missing the point with that question. I think some of you guys were diving too deep into what a sim game would be. That's not what we're asking. We are simply asking the question the same way Rex Dixon did in his tweet. He asked specifically, listen, I hear a lot of guys saying that they want these settings. They felt like the tuner at the beginning of the year was better and this and this and that. And a lot of guys throw around the term sim settings, sim mode. So he was like, well, what do you imagine, or in your mind, what is that? Again, not talking about features in the future. We all know what needs to be done to the game to make it a more simulation game as a whole. But we're talking about if you could take Madden 17 right now, you go down in your basement or in your room or your living room, wherever you got your game, and you could put it on the perfect settings, and you would call that, this is sim settings, this is sim style. What is that? What are the things that make you feel that way, and what would it be if you're able to customize it? So yeah, you can go ahead and kick that off, Smitty.
Well, like I did elaborate on it a good amount when we spoke about it last week. Like what I would definitely say though is, excuse me, like elaborating on the settings as far as when it comes to the trenches. What's the strength? Do I want to have strength as far as like strength effectiveness? Do I want to make the O-line size, and weight matter over their ratings? And I got the sliders to tune that for both the O and D line accordingly. So that means, like if they're trying to do rips, spins, things like that, or what have you, you have an option to tune that, to dial that back and see how effective it is against the line. Because if I make it more about size, I could put a good balance between size and skill differential and making it count. Then it's a lot more about, the player positioning and making the, as far as their physical stature matter a lot more when it comes to beating the block. Now, like I said, we're not talking new features here, so that's why I'm not trying to think further as far as the future, but like currently. So like the way the system currently is, it would be how they're able to beat the block. There would have to be some kind of tail to it instead of they're just instantly going to win. Like if they lock up and engage, they're not just about to just get off the block just like that all of a sudden, as soon as you get to the line. See what I mean? And that's why I said offensive line block effectiveness on the pass or on the run, or just have a general slider for that. And then do the same thing for defensive effectiveness. Like have a general slider for their effectiveness, have one for their size. How much does their physical size versus their skill matter? And then the effectiveness of their moves. What's the effectiveness of the bull rush, the effectiveness of the spin, or the rip? Or just have it in one category and just say how effective it is. Now, once again, If that means that if I turn the slider up, my thought process is if I turn it all the way up to 100, that means that it's going to be it's going to hold completely true to the rating that your player has. So the way I look at it is, if you have a guy that has, like, let's say he's got 77, okay, he's got 77 bull rush, or what have you, or excuse me, his power moves are at 77. Now, if he's at 77, he's got good, he's got a legitimate amount of effectiveness. But then now we're factoring in his size and everything else, along with who he, him interacting with that O lineman and how he interacts with the O lineman. See, because if I can make the player size count more than the skill necessarily, that's where we're talking about more brute force getting away, breaking free from the O lineman versus, and seeing them get pushed back more. You're going to see that momentum match up a lot more versus the way it is right now, where it's like they're going to lock horns and then you got the animation, that you do either spin or, they have you doing that spin move when you user them, or you do that spin move, or sometimes they'll let you do that bull rush. I tighten that part up, but then having those variable settings there, that's what makes it a lot more in control, and it makes it adds some diversity to it. Because let's say I put the pass rush effectiveness up to 100, but then I also make the I also put I make the player size and weight. I make the player size and weight matter in essence as well, in terms of how I have the settings adjusted. Now you'll have a guy that'll win. You'll have guys that'll be winning battles because of what their ratings are. But at the same time, you'll also have guys win because of their size. So now we're talking about pursuit angles and how you attack that O-line. Despite having animation sequences, and that's where you would have more animations in there to depict getting beat to the inside shoulder. If he beats me and I'm not in the proper position, he's gonna beat me and get past.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Same thing with going around the edge. If my guy's not moving fast enough and he gets around the edge, he shouldn't all of a sudden be able to just ride him out. Like, no, he beat you clearly around the edge, and you got beat. But they won't give up. They'll still continue all the way around and pursue that defender, except they'll drop their hands down from blocking, and now they're just going to run because they got beat. And they may get a block in the back. They may get a legal block in the back. They may get a holding penalty. You see what I'm saying? Those kind of things coming into the fold. But then
now we cooking with grease,
right?
Baby.
You know what I'm saying? Then now all that stuff matters. See what I mean? So these are things that we've been talking about for numerous, for years, and that's what needs to happen. But that's just one example of what I'm talking about. I mean, there are a number of things that we can all get, we can get into and get more intricate with, but that's something that, just from thinking of NHL and then in the comparison to Madden, that's one example of what would need to be done, like based off of what is going on in Madden 17 today.
Exactly.
So, I could throw it to you, like if there's anything you wanted to say.
Yeah, man. I think in terms of effectiveness, that is the word. We all know what's currently in the game with the sliders, and even more with the sliders. I mean, more so than the sliders. We hear Rex and them say this all the time, and y'all hear me say this all the time. I always say, I don't like the dial. I hate that you can dial stuff up and down to try to mimic real world stuff. I get it, because again, every video game has a dice roll to some degree. What Smitty is talking about too is leaning into customizing the gameplay to where the gameplay will respect what's happening that can influence the dice roll. So like he said, you know, if a guy's getting beat on the outside, it is what it is. Relative positioning where he is, if the offensive tackle or whoever's trying to block is not in the right position, right angle, he might get beat. That stuff needs to play out. The effectiveness needs to be there. Also, I want to get the percentage of, you know, back up of, remember when the aggressive catch was the problem and numerous people showed people how to defend it? Stuff like that. You know, ratings, the ratings need to be heavily weighed in the sim setting, you know, where if this guy, and I'm not saying he wins every time, but the percentages, like to me, the dice roll, and maybe it does, Smitty. You know, I never really asked this question, to be honest. The dice roll really needs to be based on the percentage of the rating. So, for example, I mean, it's a lot of different calculations, but let's just say a guy has 95 spec catch or whatever, catching traffic. It needs to be where X amount of percentage that he is above the rating that combats that, whether it's man coverage, zone coverage, play rec, whatever it is. There needs to be tiers. And it could be, but it don't seem like that because you can get these same results with lower tier guys. But it needs to be tiers to where there's a certain percentage of how much better he is than you, that he's going to win that many more times. At least it would make it believable, right? Because let's just say when Megatron was in his prime, he's going up against, and I hate to beat this guy up because, you know, it is what it is. Antonio Brown torched him in week 1 last year. Everybody was wondering why Norman wasn't put on Brown. But like somebody like Breland, right? One-on-one coverage against Antonio Brown or Megatron. You throw it to him 8 times. How many times should Megatron catch it? Like even in the real world. Let's be fair and say you throw it to him 8, let's say 10 times. You throw it to him 10 times. It's safe to say Megatron probably gonna get that thing like 6 times, 6 or 7. I won't say 100% because every corner should be able to make a play. But that's what I'm talking about. They got to get the percentages closer to mimicking the real thing, and maybe they do. And I'm saying this because of Rex. You know, I know you guys watch this all the time. Salute to you, Clint, A-Dub. I'm sure it's others. John White watches. I'm sure it's others. My man Scan. I don't know if Scan watches or not. Miss Smitty knows Scan. Scan do his own thing. I mean, when we with Scan, it's all good. But Scan about his business and his life, and that's it. Yeah. But it might already be like that. So y'all could be listening to this and saying, "What is Sim talking about?" It's already like that. If it is, however, it needs to play out more accordingly because it definitely doesn't seem like that, especially not playing in week 5 of season 6 or season 5, week 6 in our CFM. I mean, it's certain teams in our league, man, that you can't hardly do nothing. And I'm like, come on, man. I got Antonio Brown and Martavis Bryant in one-on-one coverages. There's no way that in the one-on-one situation that I throw it to Martavis, say 6 times, one-on-one, and it gets picked or broken up by somebody like Earl Thomas. And he's not on one-on-one with him. But what I'm saying is he's beat the corner. Now, Earl Thomas is a beast. We know that. But again, think about this. You got to account as well. Martavis Bryant is 6'4", and I'm throwing a high point pass. He has 90+ catch, spec catch, and catching traffic. Come on now. This is what I'm saying. So it has to respect those situations a little more. That's currently in the game that I feel like that you can tune. As well as, man, you know, Smitty knows I've said this a million times as well, and he alluded to it. To me, the sliders in general, I don't know if they could break them up based on, you know, if there were a way for you to play one way and play the other. The sliders, to me, has to be effort. To me, that is what the sliders need to represent. You turn catching up to 100, that should mean that they're going to give you 100% effort. Whether they catch it or not, it's still going to be based on his ratings and the percentages. Same example I like to use with offensive linemen. If I turn pass blocking to 100, I don't want to run the risk of not having no pressure. This is what should happen. I'm telling my team, I don't care what it takes. You better try to block somebody. So guess what? And you Steelers fans will know this. Guys like David DeCastro last year, for whatever reason, highly penalized. Maybe that means now he's going to get more penalties because you done told him, listen, do what you got to do to keep me off the ground. He going to get holding calls. He going to get offside. False starts, all kinds of stuff now because this trait says he's undisciplined. See? That's what sliders need to be. You put pass coverage on 100, these dudes going to do whatever it takes. So let's say there's a guy, low-tiered guy. He's a 65-man coverage. Guess what he going to do when you put it on 100? He biting on the slant. And it's an in and out. Because he just, he's so focused on what he thinks is going to be because his play rec is down, his awareness is down. Man coverage sucks. So he's going to take more chances because he's trying to cover his man at a 100% maximum effort. That's what sliders need to be. Sliders to me right now, man, the reason why I don't even hardly play with them is because you just never know. It's too, even with the quarterback accuracy, I got mine on 25 and I like where it is because I get those inaccuracies, but it shouldn't be that. It should be based more on the rating of the player more so than the slider. Slider should just be the effectiveness, like Smitty said. So that's how I feel, man, as far as if I could take 17 right now, I would like to see a more percentage of fumbles based on contact. When you hit the quarterback and such, less amount of time in the pocket, even though I still would want it to be organic to some degree. And, the CPU, man, the CPU being more effective. And see, again, we're talking features now, but you got to have some type of sense of adaptive AI or something. Like, let them mix it up. I feel like sometimes playing against the computer, I just feel like they're pretty stupid sometimes. You can get a good game on All Pro, Smitty. But the funny thing is, all Madden, we all know that's the cheat mode. Mm-hmm. The AI is crazy, though. Like, offensively, they go through the playbook on all Madden. But you just got to deal with it, again, with Smitty and I are talking about. You ain't going to get no pass rush. Like, try playing all Madden on default. You ain't getting no pass rush. Not consistently. And you only going to get maybe 3 seconds in the pocket when you on offense. But it ain't the same when they on offense. And it's so that's what I would propose, man. If any of that stuff can be adjusted in pockets, if you can give more time to people who play this way versus if guys want a little more heat, stuff like that, more fumbles, more effectiveness on tip balls, better coverage because you have to really read the coverage. And if you make a mistake, it's picked, stuff like that. The interception should be picked off a good majority of the time. Not everybody can catch, though. But let's face it, most DBs, I don't care who it is, when it's a clear interception, a lot of them going to catch it. Now, you see guys drop it, of course. But come on, man. Think about the ones you see in Madden. Bro, people live to – oh, here's another thing, Smitty. I know this probably is not setting-based, but that just reminds me. Triggering the right animations. How many times have you seen your defenders break on the ball and they do that crazy jump swat animation? I'm like, why are you doing that? That's 6. It's you and the quarterback. What are you doing? So even little stuff like that, man. But I think that is because it's keeping interceptions low. That's what I truly believe. That things like that trigger so it ain't a ton of interceptions. Because remember, Rex has said that before where they had to dial back interceptions. How are they doing that if they're not manipulating the dice roll? I don't know. I'm just guessing. So stuff like that, man. Punish me. If I'm having a bad game because I can't read the coverage, that's on me. That's what sim mode need to be. Mm-hmm. I need to learn how to beat this cover 3 or get fooled because I think this dude is going to be in a hard flat, and then he drops back, and I try to throw it in it. That's on me. So that's what I think, man. But we'll see, man. We'll see. Let's see. BB out just said Rex said he wants to take subjectivity out and apply more database. Yeah, man. Stuff like that it has to. It has to if the game is going to grow and move forward. Oh, I see you, Pete. I'm gonna get your I got your email right now, and I'm gonna shoot you the invite because we should be wrapping up the show here soon. So let me shoot you the invite. And I can get back to what I was saying.
JSP. Remember what JSP asked about the Triple G?
Yeah. That's what I was about to say.
Okay.
I'm on as I'm sending the invite to my man, I'm gonna jump right back into the Triple G situation, and as we wait for him to come in. Man, this show went by very fast, guys. What I was saying about Triple G and Canelo. Canelo is a much better boxer right now, man, and the matchups for this fight is perfect. It was also perfect for Chavez. Chavez likes to come right at you, right? And he gonna just sit there and take some, but he feel like he can maul dudes, and he gonna be bigger and stronger, even though he ain't really fought nobody, really. Canelo was the type of dude that he wait for you to come to him. He'll bring the pressure, but he likes for you to come forward. We thought that was gonna be a good fight. I don't know. Chavez looked like he was just trying to get a paycheck. I was so disappointed with that because I thought it had potential to at least be a slugfest, right? Just the same, very similar styles that you're going to see with Triple G and Canelo. He likes to put that pressure on you. He likes to stalk because he has that tremendous right hand, left hand, superpower, knockout artist. And when he know he got you, he like to pin you. He like to chase you around the ring. That's going to work very well for Canelo because Canelo likes to counterpunch. He also his jab has gotten crazy. And what I also noticed about Canelo, I don't know if y'all been paying attention, his combinations that he throw now, wow. I mean, it's reminiscent of, and I'm not comparing them, so don't even go there, y'all, but Mike Tyson used to throw one of the illest combinations in the game. My man used to hit you with either a left or right. He'd do with both hands, but he'd hit you with a left to the body, left hook to the body, and then a following uppercut with the same hand. How many people has he knocked out with that? Canelo was throwing shots like that. He was throwing combinations like two hook left, hook right to the body, uppercut up the middle, and they were all landing. So basically what I'm saying, man, is because I see we got Pete on here now. Let me wrap this up. Canelo can box now. He has power. His jab is on point, and he goes to the body. If Triple G tries to fight him the same way he's fought everybody else, I don't think that's a good idea. However, I'm not going to outright just say one's going to beat the other because, come on, we all know what Triple G is. He's been quoted as saying that sometimes he holds back because he knows people don't want to fight him. We're going to see. But I'm gonna say Canelo. I think Canelo might edge it, man. Triple G is getting a little older. He hasn't fought that level of competition in a while, if any. Danny Jacobs, they said, was his biggest test, and look what almost happened. Jacobs was in that fight for a minute. So I'm telling you, man, I think Canelo's hungry. He's a better boxer than he was when Floyd gave him that work. I think Canelo might edge him, man. That's just my gut feeling, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. But Pete, man, we welcome you to the show, man. Thanks for me finally seeing your email address and getting you on, man. What you got for us, man?
I wanted to talk about a sim mode. I feel like we only complain about it not being sim is because they're selling a sim game. I mean, that's like me going on. I don't think anyone had a problem with NFL Street having you throw the ball off the fence with your quarterback. I mean, like It shouldn't be, all right, you want to make it more sim. It should just be sim, and then the arcade mode should be what we're complaining about. I mean, it's just call it arcade. I have no problem with UFC. Yeah, UFC 2. Let's just say, I don't know if you played it. Have you played it?
Yeah, I played it. Smitty plays it a ton more than I have.
The game is through and through an arcade game. They said it when they made it. I mean, I complain about whatever stuff about that, like just how things play out, but it's still an arcade game. I don't think it's too much to ask to just make the game that you're selling. Call it Madden Arcade. I'll play whatever. We won't be talking here. I'll go in. I'll drop back 70 yards with Hackenberg and throw it into the end zone from my own 5. I mean, it just seems. I know I'm willing to compromise just because I love the game of football and that's all there is. But I don't know. It kind of irks me that I gotta like almost like give up. It's like kind of going at my pride a little bit that we gotta like do this. But yeah, you're right. As far as the what it would look like, there should just be a slider with effectiveness of the ratings.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, that could be tuned, but at least it's a slider that you could adjust. Because I want to be able to play this game online. Like, I don't want to have to resort to playing CFM.
Right.
I mean, I play MUT. First year I played MUT. I mean, what are we playing? Playing trading cards? This is cards that are supposed to be players on the field. I don't get why it can't just be the game. It just irks me. I mean, and I know people think it's hard or whatever, like they're complaining, but it's hard for everybody. It's not like I'm playing with a different game. Like, we're all playing the same game.
Right.
If it's true football, what are we complaining about? That it's too hard. Like, yeah, I mean, that's how NHL has it. Even though NHL doesn't let you actually edit the stats online. They actually don't. Actually, Madden is better online just because I play NHL. It's better online for this. It's not a sim as people think it is. But offline, it's a great game. You could tune it whatever you want, but I just think there needs to be the devs need to come out and say what they believe is sim. We put our input, and we could all agree it's sim, and play it. Now we go in, fix the bugs, but I don't think it's too much to ask that you just make the game what you feel is right, because it's not like it's ratings. The ratings are in there. We know what's happening. It's going to happen the same way. It's going to be random. Obviously, just because it's a video game, it's going to be that excuse. But I don't know. The devs just seem to just do what they think is right and stop with any sort of subjective feeling about the game.
Now, do you think? Just a quick question before you go. Do you feel as if Madden, just looking at Madden 17, which is the latest product, do you feel that Madden 17 is a arcade football game?
No.
Okay.
It's a sim football game that has certain things missing, like last year, the run fits. Like it was a sim football game with the running the ball last year. They added run fits to make it, like an element of real football that goes into it. So I was saying with man-to-man, where's the leveraging of the routes? That's an easy fix, and the rate of separation is another one. I'm playing a guy with 80 route run against a 99 route run corner. Okay, I'm not saying he has to route mirror. I don't think anyone wants that. Like they had in like 08, 10 or 11, like where the corner had some sort of like ESP where they could just read your mind of what you are running. But right now it's positioned where the guy's wide open that the stats barely matter in man-to-man. So if you're Larry Fitzgerald with 92 route run and 90 catching traffic, let's say, he gets a bit of separation, but he's able to hang on to the ball because of that rating. It's together. It's not just I get open and then I catch it. My catch affects that, and then even the corner. So I run a route, I get separation where I could throw it. He gets it, corner's there to make a play. Now the rating's taking effect. He knocks it out or he does it. I mean, is that too much, or is that like, what do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think Smitty had a question too, but I'll answer that real quick. I think really too, a lot of it is ratings. Mm-hmm. It's too much override. Like, one of my biggest problems with Madden 17 is I feel like there's too many drop balls on contact, and the contact is not even believable. I mean, the guy just brushes this guy and the ball comes out. I'm like, dude, I played with multiple receivers. I'm not trying to be a homer just saying, oh, AB. No, I've played the game with the top receivers in the game, and they get grieved on in contact, and because of what they attempted to do with the organic knockouts, ball falls out. And I'm like, yeah, come on, man. Like, can I get a guy that has high catching traffic, or maybe let's get a possession rating? Can I get a guy like that? Can I get a Chris Carter type guy, or somebody, or even like they used to say about Hines Ward, like you can knock his head off and he holds on to the ball? I don't feel like I can get that in the game, man. So I agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, and even that, it's with like bodies around. Like I have trouble like throwing. Like I know what you're saying about it doesn't look believable. Like I'm throwing. I was playing today. I threw it to Christian McCaffrey down the seam. He goes up for the aggressive catch, and then like the corner, the corner in the deep third on the sideline was able to go over because he was almost like holding it out. Like, here it is, I aggressive caught, and then he just went to an animation where he just knocked it out from behind him. Like, almost like as if they sped that up, it would like deal with that. But it's almost like they see it, the guy comes, he's like holding it out from the hit it, he does it, and then incomplete. It just seems, you're right about that. And at the same time, you'll get a guy wide open and he doesn't have to catch it. So it's both extremes. It's either he's wide open or he's not going to catch it.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Yeah. What you guys, Smitty?
Well, no, what I want to say is that I know that it's easy to say it up here and say, all we want is 1 + 1 = 2. All we want is 2 + 2 = 4. But the problem is that as soon as you give people the pencil, the pad, and you actually got to do the math yourself, they get in a shock. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's like somebody sees a fast car going down the street. Oh, snap. Yo, I want that car. But they want it because they see it. They see it on the street. They see it drive past. They hear the engine and all that, and they can just envision themselves in that car. Yeah. But as soon as they actually get behind the wheel of that car, they wrapping it around a tree. See what I'm saying? and then they're getting mad at and then what they're going to do is they start seeing what happens is in terms of this community, and it's just across the board, you got a bunch of people wrapping these cars around trees. So what happens is they go to Rex and say, Rex, you said, but how come I can't execute? I should be able. They want to drive that super duper fast, unique body sports car that's supposed to be handled by a dedicated driving professional. They want to drive it like it's a Volkswagen Beetle. See what I'm saying? They want to drive it like it's a Toyota Camry or something. Oh, they can handle it. It should be like driving a sedan. It should be easy. But because there is a level of acumen and difficulty and precision to it, or there's something that has to happen that you may not like, and it may not benefit you, that's the key thing. It doesn't benefit you necessarily. Oh, no, I can't have that. Rex, you got to dial this back. So that's why people were complaining when they were fumbling left and right, because Madden, you can always hold on to the ball to the very last second, throw it after getting popped, and you'll still complete your passes like all day long. But now, at launch, you were fumbling the ball. When you would caught the ball back, ready to throw, and then boom, you get hit. Sucker, it's coming out. It's coming out as a fumble. It's not going out as an incomplete pass. That was pretty much gone. You were fumbling a lot. And I mean, I've seen clips of people fumbling all day, and then people were complaining to Rex and going tweeting the EA account. Oh, this game's broken. Da da. I'm like, no, football's happening to you. That's what's happening. And you can't handle it. Just like what you guys, like what Sim said earlier, the wideout DB interactions. I had no problem with it in Madden 16. I said I would pose a question: how many DBs are in the NFL right now that are better at playing wide receiver than the actual wide receiver? Because I'm like, if you're going to say, oh man, how come the DB ain't coming down with the ball and I'm hitting triangle, and I'm like, that's exactly it. You're expecting this DB who does not have as high of a catch rating as this wide receiver to be able to come down with it as if he is one. And that's why he's the defensive back and not a receiver. But that's how people, it's like when you watch the NFL and you see the stuff happening there. It's like, yo, it's fun, it's exciting to see. But if you actually see how these DBs play in the NFL versus in the game, you see a lot of guys that'll play the receiver versus playing the ball. They don't always play the ball, but you see how people are playing the game. You see what I mean? It's how they choose to play. So that's why what you're saying is simple. And I mean, listen, Rex. Sim and I and AZ, we've all said these devs know they can get it done. I mean, look, they got bosses and things like that. You know, they're employees as part of a company. They just can't do whatever the heck they want. But from what they're doing, we're very confident in their ability to get the job done. The thing is, they got to please crowds and crowds of people, not just casual people and not just hardcore tourney guys, but also sim guys that pose and say, hey, I want this game to be tough. It should be so hard. This should be realistic, and the rush should be this, and the blitz should be that, and blah, blah, blah. But then when the sticks are in their hand, though, and that game that they said they wanted so bad is finally in their grasp, and they're getting dealt, or things aren't going the way they want to, now all of a sudden it's time to cry and moan the Rex. And the problem is, when you cry and moan the Rex, guess what's going to happen? The game that we want, and that these same people that set up here and claim they want it ends up getting dialed back. Organic knockouts, ball physics, all that stuff was tight. Like, it was tight at launch. People didn't understand gap integrity. They didn't understand. Like, there were aspects that we said that they needed to do. They should do live streams and do in-depth tutorials on and go through. Like, I would have loved to see A-Dub go on and go in-depth with different defensive packages and explain these zones and how the positives and minuses of them. You know, have Clint go online and do an in-depth deep dive, like visual deep dive, going through gap integrity and showcasing these different, you know, defenders, the force defenders and the cutback defenders and all that. Show us these things. So in that way, when somebody tries to say, oh, but you didn't tell me, no, it's there. And you got EA showing you how to do it versus waiting for maybe somebody you're sub to or whatever to do a tip guide or something. You got EA telling you and showing you this is what it is, this is how it's supposed to function, and this is what it's supposed to do without any patches or anything being done. That's what I'm saying. Do it when the game first comes out and do that. And that's the main thing, man. So
yeah, you know.
But you're on point, though. You're on point.
Yeah, but but either way, the devs need to have some sort of spine with this. Like this community, this is such a polarizing game that wherever they are on the spectrum of sim to arcade, there's how many people really are changing their opinion? Like, oh, so now is anyone, are the same people complaining now, or are there the same amount of people complaining now? I understand you're going for the reaction, they don't like it, but it's not like they're in a place where like, oh, we had it, and now you're complaining. That's my problem with that. I mean, you know, but you're right. I know it's. I don't blame the devs. I guess so. I'm just saying, like, you know, I'm just at the direct frustration to somebody, but you know, this is supposed to be a sim game in their own words.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been complaining for months about the pass rush. So we weren't complaining before. So the people who weren't complaining before, they're appeasing them. I mean, the people who are complaining, they're appeasing them now, and now almost like a flavor of the month type thing. Like, all right, now you got your guys' turn to suck it up, and then we're gonna go through this whole thing, and then next year we're gonna improve it, and we're gonna keep going in this like loop of I'm happy, you're happy. Oh, there's always next year, and then we're gonna keep doing this perpetual cycle. But yeah.
Yeah, because it's interesting, man. I will say this, something I've noticed. It's interesting if you look at the patch cycles when they do them.
Yep.
I mean, I just been monitoring and I'm like, why is it that it seems like the last patch is always the one that kind of gets the game back to where it was at launch? Why is it that the patches in between seem like they're loosening things and making things a little easier? I don't know. It could be some type of rhyme or reason to that, man.
It's the tournament crowd that they're complaining about, and I've seen a lot with this YouTube, like that it caters to bums that they could just throw it up and get an animation. Meanwhile, the next play, they're complaining that their fast wide receiver didn't burn the slower corner. Which I'm like, all right, so it's user to be fast then, I guess. It should be a user's job to run down the field. I mean, these corners and these defensive backs have physical traits. You want the small corner that with the 99 speed to burn the guy with 90 speed, but you don't want the 5'8" corner getting mossed by Randy Moss. It just seems ridiculous to me. I understand the user aspect, but dude, you're pressing circle and then moving and then pressing triangle. Like, relax. Like this user, like he's like merging into the guy to catch a streak. Like it, and then they justify it like with that swerve catch. I mean, it's either ratings are there or they're not. Make everyone the same speed, same whatever. We'll go in the tournament, and then you gotta do that. It has to be this way or that way. There can't be this like, oh, speed matters, but it's no user to do that. And I don't like my left tackle getting destroyed this often, even though he sucks. Like it needs to be ratings or no ratings. Then they should do the tournament with no ratings. Just pick your guys. You're picking a skin. Go with your guys. Go with team white against team black, like it's chess, and then just go play. It can't be either. It has to be either or. And I think that there's an objective way. There's an objective answer to the ratings for the devs and EA or whoever's in charge.
Yeah, man, it definitely we need something different to take place. It's just too much. It's too much back and forth. That's what we always say.
Yeah.
And you know, we definitely thank you for coming on, man. We just muted you. Well, just took you out of the call because we're about to wrap up. But I thank you for coming on, man. You're welcome anytime. Even if you want to come on and have a segment, like be a extra panelist. We've been doing that lately. But I guess we can wrap up with this, man. It definitely needs to be more, this is the product, this is what you got to play with. Smitty and I and Azure have said that so many times. You know, I even tell the devs, look, stop listening so much. And let me preference what I'm saying. You had a comfort level of your product when you released it. This way you wanted it, the baby. I mean, now you could definitely say when the game first launches, you may have anticipation to fix something that you might have saw last minute that was broken. I get that. But I'm talking about your tuning. The tuning phase, you had the game where you wanted it. You cannot let the mass community, I don't care from what side it is, whether it's the sim crowd or whether it is the tournament or arcade crowd, them make you feel like what you did wasn't right. Because they have endless time with the game. They have testing going on all the time. You tuned it up, because me and Smitty know this from when we go down to EA. There's been times that we've gone down there 3 or 4 times in a year, right? Early point, semi-early point, midpoint, almost final point. So you went through all of that, and y'all tuned down to that, because we've come different times like, ooh, I see what y'all did here. Oh, this is better than it was back at so-and-so. Get back there the next time. Oh, whoa, yes, yeah. I like what y'all did with that. Go with that, man. Don't let people knock you off of what you thought was what you needed to release with. Like I said, fixes, anything that needs to be fixed, fix it. But the tuning, the game is the game, man. I mean, if it's something that's obvious and the data shows it, cool. But just because complaining and don't rush to do it, that's another problem I have. It seems like it gets done too fast, way too fast. Collect some more data, man. You know, watch streams and things like that. Because I'll tell you this much, and this is a little bit of a nod, a tip of the hat to Clint. Has no problem. You know what you did right there was wrong, right? And I'll be like, what? A quick story, and then we'll get out of here. I think I told y'all this before, but just because it's relative to what we're talking about. I'm in the studio one time, and I'm saying, Clint, why did this guy block? Why is he not blocking the oncoming linebacker? Like, why is he looking at the safety? Block the guy who crossed his face. Like, in the real world, you have an assignment, but you won't block whoever shows up, right? He said, yeah, you're right. He said, but why you run outside on that play? I was like, what you mean? He said, that's a power. He said, go to the replay. Show me the replay again. I showed him the replay. Had I followed the play yard, I'd probably score. It's probably a 60-yard touchdown, because I could have cut inside. The outside guy wouldn't have been a factor, and I'm to the house. So he was like, you're right, what you said, but had you did what you were supposed to, that wouldn't have been a problem. And see, that's a prime example. Watch streams and stuff, investigate. Watch and see how people are playing, the ones who are complaining. What type of coverage are they calling against a certain receiver? What type of run D are they trying to use against a certain personnel? And then decide for yourself if it seems like something needs to be tuned. How many catches are they making? How many mosses are happening? Stuff like that. Don't just go off of the feedback and everybody's yelling, because like I said, y'all played the game as many times, way more times than you can count before it launched, to get your game to where you felt comfortable with releasing it. Don't go against your gut feeling right there. That's where y'all were comfortable with it. That's what it need to be. Just that simple, but you guys, Smitty, you got any last words as we wrap up here?
No, that's pretty much it, man. Other than thanks to everybody that came through and contributed in the convo tonight. It was definitely a great conversation. So I had a great time. So appreciate everybody coming through, and that's it. Counting but yeah, technically it's the 11th, so this would be day 2 of EA Play in about a month's time. So we count down them days, man. So it's about a month away. We'll be in there.
And you ain't hear from me, but I would expect that there'll be some news soon. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying. I would expect it. I'm just saying. Y'all can take that as me throwing a bone or not. I'm just saying. I would expect that there's gonna be some news at some point. I mean, we are a month away from EA Play, because a lot of y'all have been asking, And like I told y'all, even when I know something is coming, I can't say nothing until you've already seen it. But expect something in May. I'm pretty sure. I mean, every year has been pretty consistent with May. They always show something before. And here's another hint, Smitty, that people just don't put 2 and 2 together. Don't we usually hear something right around the cover vote time?
Yeah.
Always. I mean, that's always. Is it if it's not earlier, you know you get something around the cover. So now that talk is out there, just keep your eyes open. That's all I'm saying. But hey, man, I got to go to Washington, D.C. tomorrow. As I sit here right now, I'm in Pennsylvania. I got to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning. I have to leave my house at 5:30. I'm not happy about it. But hey, I had to go on Friday. You know, the boss is taking us out to a nice lavish lunch. So I said, okay, I will give up my Monday for Friday, but I got to go. I got to get some sleep. I got a little time left, and I know Smitty about to laugh at me. I might even have to call Smitty in a minute if he has some time. But I'm still battling, what you call it, Photoshop right now. It's kicking my butt. So, Smitty, I might be calling you in about 10 minutes, man. I got to get some stuff out the dryer and head on upstairs. But I got till about another 40 minutes that I can stay up before I hit the bed. But, all right, guys, we're out of here, man. See y'all next week. Maybe we'll have something to talk about. Maybe not in terms of Madden. Just keep everybody's eyes open. Enjoy the rest of the playoffs. And we'll be back next week. Catch you guys later. Peace.
Peace.